So this is all about looking at trying to get the horticultural and viticultural industries in adopting the use of recycled water on a larger scale. And we already know that Tim Pitt's already done a lot of work on looking at a pilot scale study and looking at whether there is a possibility on using some of the recycled water within the industries, and this is an extension to some of that work that he's done in the past. So the participants include the Goyder Institute, which has co-funded some of the research. We need to thank the industries, the viticulture and the almond industry, and Tim set up some of the trials on the properties of some of the growers within those industries. We need to thank the PAC and the people on that committee who have really helped steer this project and got this project up and running. Adelaide University is also involved through, they're going to get a PhD student working on the project. And I do need to thank Tim, who's here today, because first of all, Tim got the presentation done on time and I wouldn't have. And secondly, Tim is the one that's doing all the work. So there's a number of objectives in the project. The first one is really to test whether you can harvest rainfall to reduce soil salinity, and that's one of the big, soil salinity is one of the big issues with using recycled water in the horticultural and viticultural industries, because it's not the same quality of water that the growers usually use, so the quality of it varies and you can tend to get a build-up of salt within the root zone. So the first thing is to test whether what we call rainfall harvesting can be used to reduce that soil salinity and salinity within the plants itself. The second thing is to see whether any of the methodologies that Tim's looking at can actually be commercially viable. We know that they work, but whether they can be used on a commercial scale is another issue. And then we know a lot about the growth cycles of grapes, and we know when salinity affects grapevines, but for other crops we don't know a lot about them. So for we're doing some studies with the almond industry, and we need to find out when is it critical to stop salt affecting the almond production. So they're basically the objectives of the project. So almond industry, viticultural industry. So Tim set up a number of trials. As I said, these are on the grower sites. So the first one is wine grapes down south of Adelaide at McLaren Vale. And this one, as I said, it's about looking at when rain falls, can we redistribute that rain? So the salt tends to build up in the root zone, so along the vine row. So this study is about whether we can redirect the rainfall that falls on those crops and use that rainfall where it falls to reduce some of the salinity. So it's basically moving the rain from the mid-row to the vine row and reducing salinity below where the drippers are within the vines. So Tim set up a number of different, as I said, Tim's already looked at the potential for this and found out that there is some opportunities, it does work. So now he's looking at a different number of scenarios or a different number of treatments, and those treatments vary from the diagram here where he's shown that he's putting out plastic within the intervine row to distribute that rainfall, but there's also other methods as well. So there's a whole lot of treatments he's now looking at to see which one could be commercially used. Then in the almond trial, he's basically looking at a whole range of treatments. So there's 5 treatments there, and he's looking at applying that recycled water at certain times during the season to see when that recycled water has most negative impact on the almond growth. So Tim's currently gearing up for this will be the first full season coming up that he's collected data. He's already got some preliminary data that he's been collecting prior to the start of the first season. So, as I said, we want to have better understanding of the impact of salt on some of these crops, and we need to have a better understanding of a commercially viable system to reduce the salinity. So they're going to be the two project outcomes. And those outcomes really are not just for the industries that we're looking at. The idea is to extend those, extend the work to other industries when we know what's happening within the viticulture and almond industries. And we want, the first place I think we can extend it to internationally is to places like California, which have the same problems as we do in South Australia in terms of salt build-up in the root zone.